Welcome everyone to Baritone Ukulele's Rule. In today's lesson, we're going to be learning all about playing seventh chords on the baritone ukulele. Now, to set the tone off in the proper way for this video, I think I'm going to play a little snippet of a song for you. Let's see if you recognize this. Raindrops keep falling on my head, and just like the guy whose feet were too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops keep falling on my head, they keep falling. And of course that was raindrops keep falling on my head. Now I'm not sure if you were keeping score, but out of the 9 different chords that were used in that passage there, 7 of them were seventh chords. Now, I'm not sure if you're new to baritone ukulele or not, or new to music theory, but a lot of people don't have a true understanding of what a seventh chord is. Now, there's 3 main types of seventh chords, and to explain exactly the breakdown of those 3 different types of chords, we're going to go over to the piano and have a little music theory lesson. Good morning, everyone. Music Theory 101 is now in session. Today's subject, seventh chords. Whether you know how to play piano or not, I'm sure at some point in your life you've walked up to a keyboard and have done this. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That is a C major scale. Calling it out by letters, we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We can also give these notes numerical values. So the root note would be 1, the same note an octave higher would be 8, and then all the notes in between would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do you see where we're going with this? Before I show you the 3 main types of seventh chords, we have to take a look at what makes up a major chord and a minor chord. So a major chord consists of the first note, the major third, and the fifth. That's called a major triad. What makes up a minor chord would be the first root note, a minor third, so instead of here, we have to take a half step down, plus the fifth. That's a minor chord. Major chord, nice and happy and bubbly. Minor chord, somber, mysterious, dark. Now, when we counted out all the notes, we identified this note here, this B, as being note number 7. So the first seventh chord we're going to learn today is called the major seventh. So that would be a major chord plus this major seventh. The next seventh chord we're going to take a look at is something known as the dominant seventh. Sometimes you'll see it though just written out as the note value like C and then the number 7. So we start off with the major triad again, but we do a flattened seventh. So major 7, dominant 7. The last of the popular seventh chords is the minor seventh. So for that, we'll have to do a minor chord. So instead of a major third, we have to go to a flattened third, plus the fifth, and then the flattened seventh. So the 3 chords played in a row one last time. We have the major seventh, dominant seventh, minor seventh. So now that you know the building blocks of what makes up seventh chords, you might be wondering, well, why would I choose one type of seventh chord over another? Now obviously if you're just playing along to some already existing piece of music, if they call for a major seventh chord, you play the major seventh. If they ask for a dominant seventh, you play the dominant seventh. But But what about you, maybe budding songwriters out there? You're noodling around on the ukulele and you're trying to find a good chord for the next section. How do you know which one to pick? Well, there's no hard and fast rules. However, there are a few observances I've made over the years. So let's first take a look at major seventh chords. What I found throughout many of the songs that I've learned how to play, the major seventh has a tendency to want to take place in some kind of a step down or a walk down fashion. For instance, when I was playing Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, I started off with a G major, but then I stepped down to a major seventh before going down to a D minor seventh. So you can see how it's going this downward slope. Another example of this kind of step down is, Something by the Beatles. Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. So you can see it's part of that downward sloping. So whenever you need to do a walk down type of chords, you might look towards a major seventh. Here's another example. The beginning couple of chords in the song Space Oddity by David Bowie starts off with an F major seventh. Now, just hearing that first chord kind of feels like there's something a little bit raised, so that when you hear the next chord, which is an E minor, we're going back down. So it's like stand up, before it goes into ground control to major tom. So that's the major seventh. So next we're going to take a look at the dominant seventh chords. Now, if you remember from that lesson with the piano, the dominant seventh has a flattened seventh note, which means it feels like it's kind of crouched down, so it needs to resolve upwards to a higher note, which is why in that popular rock and roll 4-chord chord progression, G major, E minor, C, before we go back over to the G again, we do a D7, not a regular D, which is a kind of up, but more of a slightly flattened, it just kind of has a slightly flattened feel, so that when you go back to the G, there's the resolve. Let's play it again without any interruption. You feel the resolve? Another role for a dominant seventh is to be part of that walking down process. So we start off with a G major, major seventh, dominant seventh. And one final example, I like to do this when I'm playing like a really fun song. Let's just say we finished off a 4-chord chord progression. So I end with that seventh chord, kind of gives it a little tension, a little jazziness. And finally we have the minor seventh chord. I always refer to this as the mystery chord, because it's not really clear when you should use it. It's more or less when it sounds right, it is right. So I'm just going to play you first a D major, and then the D7, so this is the dominant seventh. That's the flattened seventh. And then we add a minor third to have the minor seventh. Now usually when you add a minor note into a chord, it gives a feeling of some kind of sadness or kind of dark. With this, it's almost mysterious. It's almost like romantic and jazzy. It's really nice. Regular seventh, D7, minor seventh. So as far as songwriting goes, for all you budding songwriters, I definitely encourage you to experiment with seventh chords, because you can really add a lot of character and a lot of different types of emotion into your song just by doing these little seventh note tricks. Anyway, I hope you learned something today. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.